before you.
And what organization were you with?
I'm with SNAP, Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests.
Okay.
If you knew somebody was raping kids in your home, would you take the kids out of harm's way? Evidently, 2 archbishops from Milwaukee, 2 bishops from here, and the top 2 officials in the Catholic Church today don't think that's a responsibility that they should have when one of theirs is raping kids. We want the Pope, if he can be saying this letter that they wrote to the Irish people, he's telling his bishops around the world to recognize the extent and complexity of the problem, to admit grave errors of judgment and failures of leadership. And he says that because of what they did, they have seriously undermined the credibility and effectiveness of the church. What he did is worse than what he's trying to tell his bishops to do. Does he recognize the extent of what he didn't do when these bishops and archbishops are asking for some clarity? Does he understand, well, let's keep it quiet because we don't want scandal? When you've got a serial sex offender whose main target are challenged children with hearing impairments, that's sick. It's sick. And then he says that the bishops should remedy past mistakes to guarantee that they do not happen again. So in light of that, we want this Pope to tell us how he ran that office for 5, 6, 7 years, and with his top right-hand person who was with him then, in essence, the Secretary of State to the Vatican, explain to us, explain to the world how you ran that office where this type of crime couldn't get taken care of. What's so important about this awareness today is this building right here was ground zero with the Vatican about this Father Murphy. As you look at the timelines that I've laid out here, you can see where in 74, 75, the Archdiocese of Milwaukee, working with this diocese, picked Murphy up and they dropped him up here in the far corner of this diocese in Boulder Junction. And for 20 years, this man continued to rape children. They never stopped him. And then when they realized that they were under pressure, starting to get caught, what do we do now to keep the crisis or this issue silent? Working with Ratzinder and his office, they still did not do what they should have done. Even to the point where Murphy writes to Ratzinder, that Pope Benedict now, oh, please let me retire or finish out my age in peace. What about the 200 plus children he raped? They still don't have peace. They're never going to have peace. The other thing about Murphy, I don't know if you folks are aware of this whole concept of the Catholic confession. You go into the little closet and you talk through a screen, and if you don't know who you're talking to, forgive me, Father, if I have sinned. Can you imagine how somebody that's hearing impaired does a confession with a priest? You're right there in front of him. And that's what Murphy did in that school for the deaf in Milwaukee, and the same thing he did as he ran around that whole northeastern part of this diocese. taking confessions from the deaf children. They stood in front of him. I got another child to hunt, to prey on.
Can you talk about Bishop Fliss's involvement in this?
Well, let's go back to the question I asked you before. If somebody was raping children in your house, what would you do? Fliss and Henslin didn't do that. They knew he was out there in the far reaches of their diocese, so let's not protect the children. Did he do enough? No. If I was writing somebody a letter, I don't care if it leaves here with postage stamp, courier, or carrier pigeon, and I didn't get a response for 8 months, or if I didn't get a response in 8 weeks, I'd be writing another letter. I'd be grabbing the phone. Fliss did not do enough. For me, honestly, to be here at Ground Zero, I'm honored. Not for the subject matter, but I know that right here, that carrier pigeon had correspondence from this diocese and Rome. Jesus says something about if you harm the little ones, you're better off having a millstone tied around your neck and thrown into the deepest of sea. I think that's important. Because it's not just the person that lays their hands on those children. It's those that cover it up that allow the perpetrator to keep on abusing.
If you could put it succinctly, what would you like to see happen in the perfect world?
Right, number one, in the perfect world right now, I would want anybody that has been abused by any religious to get help. Use this awareness effort to contact us, call law enforcement, whatever you need to do, but get help. Step out of the shadows of silence. That's number one. Those that have been harmed, get help. Number two, other factors of our society over these last few years have started to make some changes. That they've been involved with efforts to try to understand sexual abuse of children and how do we prevent that in society. I think if you look at any involvement in that social awareness issue, you will not see an institution like this sitting at the round table with the other factors of our society figuring out solutions. It's obvious now, their whole thing is, let's tell everybody we have a charter for protection of children, but cover everything up. That's got to change.
That's another question. Are you amazed that no one has stepped in with all the people that knew about this? Are you just amazed that, whether it be...
No, and the reason that I'm not, once you lay in your belly and you vow obedience to a bishop, or if you're a religious order, like a Christian brother, once you take that vow of obedience to the order, okay, analogy, you two guys are brothers, blood brothers. You have taken a vow of obedience to a bishop or to a religious order. Then you find out he's being abused by somebody in your order or one of the priests in the diocese. Because you vowed to him or the order, you don't support him. You support the order or the bishop. That's the problem. So you're not brothers anymore, but you're now you're priests in a diocese or in a parish someplace, and you know he's abusing. Oh, bishop, if you got the courage to do that, okay, let's keep it quiet. Keep an eye on him. That's what they've done for years, for centuries.